السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All praises due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be upon His final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He deserves to be praised, the praiseworthy. Welcome to another session of Islamic Perspective, where we answer the questions that are sent to us on the email ip@sba.net.ae, ip@sba.net.ae. And we seek aid in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to answer your questions, starting with the question that we have in front of us. Question 1. Is it permissible to fast on alternate days, not to fast indefinitely, but whenever possible? Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Actually, this is the best type of fasting, which is to fast one day on, one day off. This was the fasting of Dawood alayhi salam. And the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to say, the best of fasting is the fasting of Dawood alayhi salam. He used to fast one day on, and then he'd break his fast the next day, and then he'd fast one day on, one day off, one day on, one day off. So the Messenger Muhammad ﷺ actually praised this action, and he said this is the action of Dawood alayhi salam, and he actually recommended this to one of the companions. So yes, there are no issues. Whenever you have strength and you want to fast one day on, one day off, yeah, you may do so, and inshallah you're rewarded for this, definitely. And you're acting on the sunnah of the Messenger Muhammad ﷺ, because this is what the Messenger Muhammad ﷺ recommended. Given that you do not fast prohibited days, what are the prohibited days? Days that are agreed upon that are prohibited to fast, which are the two Eids, for example. In the Eid of Fitr, for example, the days of Eid al-Fitr, and on the first day of Eid al-Fitr, and for example, in Eid al-Adha, not fasting the actual day of Eid al-Adha, and the days of Tashriq, that follows. Wallahu alam. Question number 2. Person A leads the fard prayer as imam in a masjid. طيب. Person B joins from the third rak'ah. طيب. When the imam finishes the prayer, person B stands and finish the rest of the missed rak'ah. طيب. Now person C comes and taps on the shoulder of person B, who started his third rak'ah, starts to lead the prayer by saying takbir loudly. I have seen this and would like to know the ruling on this. SubhanAllah, interesting. طيب. So basically, let's explain the question. The question goes like this. A person came to the masjid basically, and he was late. He entered the prayer in Jama'ah on the third rak'ah. So assuming he's talking about Maghrib or Isha, طيب, he entered late. So after the imam makes salam, he stood up to complete his prayer. And of course, we have explained this before. When does a follower stand up to complete his prayer? We said that after the imam completes the two taslimas, right? We explained this before. Say after the imam finishes the taslimas on the right and on the left, saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. After pronouncing the ha of wa rahmatullah, the follower who was late, he stands up to complete his prayer. This is the opinion, the safer opinion. طيب. So the question here says, when that person has stood up to complete his prayer, we have a person C. What does this person C do? He goes in and he taps on the shoulder of that person who's completing his prayer. Meaning he wants to join him in Jama'ah. So he came by himself. Apparently from the question, this person came by himself. And he said, I came to the masjid and I want the reward of Jama'ah. So he didn't find anyone with him. He found this person completing his prayer. So he decided to join him in congregation. Is this permissible? Is this allowed? طيب. Inshallah, it is allowed. It is permissible. Now, but there is an important matter here. In certain madhabs, like the Hanbali madhab, they state that if a person is an imam, he should have the intention of being an imam. He should have the intention of being an imam. And this is very important. They say that if he did not have the intention of being an imam, then the follower's prayer is considered invalid. Yeah, that is specific to the Hanbali madhab, but they have a point. Yani, fundamentally, there's nothing to go against this. And if an imam was knowledgeable of this, when praying as an imam, you should have the intention of being the imam. This is a condition for the validity of the follower's prayer. That's why a person who's going to be an imam should be a faqih, should have a proper understanding of the rulings of prayer. So in this question, now this question here is saying, can a man who's praying by himself be an imam? Why do we say by himself? Because if a person has stood up to complete his prayer, he's no longer in congregation. He has separated from the imam. The imam finished the prayer. Khalas, he's no longer in congregation. So he's praying by himself. So he has the ruling of a person praying by himself. A person tapped on his shoulder to inform him that he's going to join him in jama'ah. It could be more than one. If it was one person, he prays on his right. And by the way, if two people are praying jama'ah, two people, should the person on the right, the follower, should he leave some space and be behind the imam, or should they be next to each other? Wallahu alam, they should be next to each other. There's nothing that states that a follower should be, one step behind the imam. And even in the books of fiqh, they mentioned this. So the follower should be next to the imam. Next to the imam, okay, not behind him. If he was behind him a bit, it's okay. We're not talking about valid or not. We're talking about what is best. He should be close to him, okay? He should be on the same level as the imam. This is the first point. The second point is that this person who is going to be an imam, so if he tapped on his shoulder, he should start intending to be an imam. Is this permissible? Yes, it is permissible. The Messenger Muhammad ﷺ did this. He was praying by himself and Ibn Abbas joined him. And what's interesting, Ibn Abbas joined him and he was praying on his left side. So the Messenger Muhammad ﷺ took his hand and he guided Ibn Abbas all the way until he was on his right side, and then they continued the jama'ah. They prayed together. So if this occurred in a nafil prayer and it was valid, there's nothing that differentiate this nafil prayer from an obligatory prayer. So it may occur, it can occur, it is valid. If it happened in a jama'ah, in an obligatory prayer, inshallah it is valid. But the imam, the person who's going to be an imam, should intend being an imam. Should intend being an imam, and inshallah it is valid. But I do not recommend it. You might be saying, you Shaykh, you just said it's valid. Why would you not recommend it? I'll tell you why I do not recommend this. For the following reason. And this happened in front of me. I was in a masjid, we were finishing doing adhkar, and we saw a group of people. Okay, it was one person first who tapped on the shoulder of one of the people who were praying, and he went on his right side. And then another person came, so they were behind each other on a row behind one person. And you know what? This one person was not aware of them. And they were treating him as an imam. They were following his actions. And wallahi, based on, subhanAllah, he does not even know that they're following him. And based on the Hanbali madhab, their prayer is invalid. Why is that? Why is it invalid? Because this person who's praying has no idea that he is an imam. He does not have the intention of being an imam. This is the first reason why I do not recommend this action. The second reason is that this was not common among the companions. Actually, I have not come across this action being of the actions of the companions. We say it's valid, but we do not recommend doing this. And if a person came to the masjid by himself, inshallah he'll be rewarded. He'll be rewarded the full reward because he has the intention and he did some action to reach the prayer, but for whatever reason, he came late. What's best is that to wait a bit until someone else comes, and then you too can pray jama'ah. This is the best thing to do. And if you do have no one, if you assume, and if you also know in your mind that no one is going to come, just pray by yourself. Pray by yourself, okay? This is safer for you and safer for that person, because, why do you want to risk your prayer? What if that person was not aware of this ruling and he doesn't know the rulings aslan of imam and all these things, and you're going to make him an imam of prayer? So, I do not recommend this. I do not recommend this. It's valid for those who did it, it's valid. But doing this in prayer, this is something that I do not recommend. And many people, they are, what's it called? They're not aware of this ruling. They do not understand that if you tapped on his shoulder that he's going to be an imam. And we've seen this also. So, this action, do we recommend it? No. Wallahu alam. Salam alaikum. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am going through a apparently difficult time. طيب. I dealing with stressful problems. I need help from Allah. I am currently doing istighfar. Is there anything else I can do? طيب. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Apparently this brother or the sister is asking, she's going through difficult times. And subhanAllah, this is just part of this life. Allah Azza wa Jal has created this life with its challenges and tests to test us. Whom amongst us will have the best of deeds? As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in Surah Al-Mulk, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. The one who created life and death to test us, whom amongst us will have the best of deeds? So this is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ. Indeed, we will test you. So this is just part of the reality of life. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has also taught us how to act regarding these tests. Well, this person is saying that I'm currently doing istighfar. Alhamdulillah, you're on the right track. So you understand that whatever test that that is in front of you, the only way out of it is to seek aid in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So alhamdulillah, you're on the right path. But he's asking, is there anything else that I can do? Yes, there's definitely something very important that you can seek aid in. What is it? Prayer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. And he said subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Seek aid in patience and in prayer. Prayer itself is a source of aid. Prayer strengthens your faith. And in prayer, you have all types of worship. You have remembrance of Allah. You have recitation of the Quran. You have dua. You have submission when you do ruku' and when you do sujood. You truly feel that you have submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your actions, your words. You're in true submission to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you feel that the one who's in control is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You truly feel this in prayer. And you realize you're nothing but a humble servant of His. And in prayer, this is what the companions used to do. So like Ibn Abbas, he was traveling and the news of his brother passing away came to him while he was traveling. And when he heard the news, he descended from his camel and then he started worshipping, doing prayer. SubhanAllah, the news of his brother passed away, he came down from his camel and he started engaging in worship. And then after finishing worship, what did he say? He said, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Seek aid in worship and in prayer and in patience. And I remember the times when I used to do counseling, family counseling. We had a brother who had just filled with doubts regarding his wife, just filled with doubts. And I said to him at the end, look, we can stay all night dealing with each doubt that you have. But believe me, whatever I tell you, this will not suffice. You will always find another doubt. But I give you an advice. I'll have an advice for you. It was nighttime. I told him, look, let's end this here. And I want you to do one thing. He's like, what? I told him, stand up. This was after Isha prayer. So stand up and do as much qiyam as possible. As much qiyam as physically possible. How much you're able to do it. And he said, okay, Sheikh, I'll do this. And subhanAllah, he contacted me after 2-3 days, said, I stayed up praying as much as possible. In all the strength that I had, I have put in doing qiyam. And then he said, the problems, the wasawis, the whispers of the shaitan went away. I sought aid in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I have felt something different when I did this worship. SubhanAllah, this worship of qiyam, it solidifies your faith. It just shows you what is the right thing to do. And it also, you're seeking aid in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is my advice. Engage in qiyam. And there's also another thing. Once you engage in this new worship and you start doing more and more of it, you'll taste something different. You will taste the sweetness of faith. And then your problem will end. إِنَّا كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَاهُ بِقَدَرٍ. All problems, they have a start and they have an end. But, the person is successful, those who have done what is pleasing to Allah in these tests, those who have achieved something in these trials and tribulations. So on the day of judgment, we're gonna leave this world. You want this test to be on the scale of your good deeds. But if you want to achieve something that is pleasing to you in the day of judgment. So once you taste this new worship, you'll find yourself addicted to it. You'll find yourself, you cannot leave this worship anymore. Regardless if you had a difficult time or a good time afterwards, even if this problem was removed, you won't even care about it anymore. Your emphasis will be engaging in this worship because of what you're going to feel, this new connection that you will have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they said this is part of the wisdoms of hardships. Hardship sometimes creates connections between the servant and the Creator. Because many people neglect their worships and stay heedless until this hardship comes, and then it wakes them up. And then they go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seeking His approval. And Ibn al-Qayyim has mentioned this in Tariq al-Hijratain, and he has mentioned this in so many of his books. He said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tests His servant with a certain test, and afterwards this person engages in all types of worships. And then after this problem is removed, he finds that the things that he used to do, as in the worships that he used to do, this is more delightful in his eyes than the problem being removed. And this is the reality. So yes, engage in qiyam, and be patient. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove the hardship of all the Muslims. Allahu alam. And with this, inshallah, we will end. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. جزاكم الله خير.